Okay, so for this first part, we're going to weigh out 56 milligrams of our fluorescein right here. We have a small weigh boat where we will weigh out our 56 milligrams. So we first make sure that our scale is zeroed out. We can open the door, put the weigh boat in, let that stabilize for a little bit, and then we zero it out again just to make sure we have a zero reading. We take our fluorescein here, and I got a scoop. We'll open this, open the door, and then very carefully remove some of the fluorescein, which is like a orangish, bright reddish powder here. We'll pull some of that out. We'll transfer that to our weigh boat. And we want to do it little by little just because we don't want to overshoot our weight. It's really hard to remove some of this stuff and try to find the right mass that we're looking for. So 56 milligrams, that's going to be 0.056 grams. So it looks like we're getting kind of close. We'll add a little bit more. With every addition, I kind of take a pause just to see how much it moves. And I can kind of determine how much I should be adding, just little by little at this point. Oh, I overshot that a little bit. But that's okay. That's okay if I overshot that. We can just record now what we got. Alright, so for this first part, we're going to create solution number 1, which is a roughly 4.8 millimolar fluorescein solution. And we start off by taking our 56 milligrams of the fluorescent that we weighed. We're going to add that to our solution 1 beaker. And as we can see, we still have some of that residue kind of still on there a little bit. And we don't want to throw this away yet, right? Because what we have in this beaker isn't exactly our 56 milligrams. So what we need to do is, since we're going to add our 10% ethanol to the solution, we weigh this out, we measure this out. We're going to measure out 30 milliliters of this 10% ethanol. And we're going to measure it by using this graduated cylinder. So we take our 30 milliliters of our 10% ethanol, and what we want to do is kind of wash out the residue that we have here in this weigh boat. So we'll add that carefully. Making sure we get everything off of that weigh boat as best as we can. Now we got that. And then last thing that we need to add is about a milliliter or so. There's about a milliliter of our 0.10 molar sodium hydroxide. So what we'll do is we'll remove the cap on this guy. We have a new sterile pipette here, and we'll draw out about a milliliter and then add that. So we got about a milliliter drawn into here, and then we'll add this to our beaker. And we see that it kind of changed colors a little bit, which is good. And we'll give that a quick stir using our stir bar, just to homogenize the solution. That looks pretty nice and homogenized, nice and mixed up in there. What we'll do is we'll wrap this up in aluminum foil and then stick it in the fridge for about half an hour. Okay, so for step number 2, we're going to create our solution number 2, which is about 64 millimolar solution of our 2-chloro-2-methylpropane, which we got right here. So to do that, we're going to take our micro pipette, and we have it set to 700 microliters because we're going to transfer about 700 microliters of our 2-chloro-2-methyl solution to this volumetric flask. So now that we got that in our volumetric flask, we top it off to the mark with straight acetone. So we'll uncap this guy. And we'll carefully add our acetone. We don't want to overshoot, right? Because if we overshoot the mark, then we have to start from the beginning. So nice and slowly. Once we start getting to the top up here, I'll take it really slow just to make sure I don't overshoot. Now I'm just going like little by little. And then once we get like something that's like too close for comfort, right? We're like right there almost. What we can do is we can take like a pipette, a clean one, and I can actually just pull some of this acetone out and almost just add it kind of drop by drop directly into the volumetric flask, and that's right about there. It's about right at the meniscus, so that looks pretty good. So there we got our solution number 2. We'll cap this and then we'll move on to step number 3. Alright, so for step number 3, we'll do our solution number 3, which is a 5 millimolar solution of sodium hydroxide. We have a 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide solution to start with that we're going to dilute in our 100 milliliter volumetric flask. So to do that, we need 5 milliliters of this 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide solution. And to measure that out, to be able to transfer that quantitatively to our volumetric flask, we got to use a serological pipette. So I have here a 10 milliliter serological pipette because I don't have a 5 milliliter one. But the good thing is that it has the graduations, so I can measure up just to this 5 mark and then transfer that to our volumetric flask. So to do that, we open up our bottle of our 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide, and using this pipette bulb, I'm going to put it to the top of the serological pipette and draw up not too far. I'll kind of try to do this sideways. So I got my thumb capped on the end here, and this thing is full with liquid. Right as I let go of my thumb, you can see that solution is dropping. And so I'm going to the 5 mark. About there. So I've got about 5 mils in here of our sodium hydroxide. I'm going to transfer that into my solution there. So now that that's there, all we have to do is just top it off with DI water, which I got right here. So what I can do is I can just take off this squeezed part of it, add to the volumetric flask to get close to the line, not necessarily exactly to the line. Once I get really close to it, I'll stop, put the little squeeze, the squeeze part back on it, and then add it on there. Right, so something right here. I'll put this back on. Now I can just squeeze out water very carefully until I get to the line, which is about right there. It looks pretty good. So here we got our solution number 3, all made up and ready to go. Alright, so to start trial 1, we got our beaker here labeled trial 1, and we have both of these solutions 2 and 3 heated up to 35 degrees C. And so what first thing we're going to do, I'll move these out of the way. I got a little spin bar right there in this beaker because we're going to be spinning the solutions as automatically stirring it as we're adding things to it. So the first step is to add solution number 3 to the beaker. We're going to add 10 milliliters of this. All right. So we got 10 milliliters of a solution right there. We're adding that in. And then, using a micropipette, we'll add about 100 microliters of our tin-foiled solution, right? The one that we had in the fridge. Give that a quick stir before we add anything. And there you go. We see that we got some fluorescence there. And so that's the reason why I have the room dark. So that way you guys can see that. Let me turn off the light. Now you guys can see, using our UV lamp back there, we got some fluorescence. So now the next step is to add our solution number 2, which is going to be kind of hard to see right here. Solution number 2. We're going to add 5 milliliters of this into the beaker, and we're essentially looking to see how long it takes for the fluorescence to go away. So while it's not going to go completely away, we see that the intensity of the fluorescence has really decreased quite a bit. And it's getting to the point where like it's dying off, right? The fluorescence is dying off kind of slowly now, but it eventually will get to nothing. Alright, so now we got our trial 2 we got to do. And so we're essentially doing the same thing, but now I've allowed my solution 2 and solution number 3 to essentially cool off back to room temperature. So that's what we're comparing here. And so again, solution number 3, adding our 10 mils here. 10 mils into the beaker. We already have our spin bar in there. Take our micropipette again. Give it a quick stir before we get anything. And another 100 microliters into the beaker. And right away, as expected, we see that fluorescence pop up again. So let me turn off my light here. And just like before, right, we got nice bright fluorescent. And so now that we're at room temperature, we're going to see by adding our solution number 2, see how quickly it is going to take it out. So we're going to do another 5 mils. And we'll see how long that takes. Alright, so now we got trial number 3. So take our solution number 3 again. Add 10 mils to our graduated cylinder here. Pour that out. Take our micropipette and once again give that a little swirl. Draw up our 100 microliters. Pour that out. Nice quick stir. And remember, trial 3, right, we're doing trial 3 because this is the one where we're doing it at room temperature, where our solutions are at room temperature. And this time, we're doing no stirring. So not on the plate. That's why we're down lower this time. So let's go ahead and add our 5 mils. Again, using our little pipetter here. As quickly as I can. And now, I'm just going to let that sit, right? And we'll see how long it takes before the fluorescence goes away. So just for consistency's sake, this is kind of what the endpoint is. It's not a complete termination of the fluorescence. It's just a very, very, very faint version of it. So this is the endpoints for all of them, where they all ended at roughly the same intensity of the fluorescence.